goes to right. Russell Westbrook.
You love the Philadelphia Eagles. Let me get a hell yeah!
What's up, everybody? What's going on? Welcome to Party on Broad, the first edition of the War Room. On tap for today, we are going to talk NBA draft, and this is going to be a series, guys. This is going to be a long series until the NBA draft goes down, and who the fuck knows when that happens. But anyway, we're going to talk our top prospects, and leading off today is Kira Lewis. Let's start off with our introductions. It is Thiago. Follow him on Twitter at tscabia, man. How you doing?
I'm doing good, man. Just here hanging out. It's going kind of crazy. It's been 2 months now, so just waiting for some news about when we're going to start. But I'm excited for sure.
Awesome. And joining us today is Krell TPL on Twitter. Make sure you check out his other podcast, The Feed to Embiid, on Twitter at The Feed to Embiid. Man, how you doing?
First week, new job. I've only been screamed at 85% of the time. So safe to say I'm definitely happy for it to be the weekend.
So that's only like a slight decrease than a normal week?
Listen, Twitter was nothing compared to what this week was. Twitter slander was nothing this week. It was just like bullets off the chest is what it was.
Yeah.
Anything you want to plug about the Feed to Embiid, dude?
Brock, who is my fabulous co-host, he and I have an episode out as of last night. We discussed the press conference, although it was sort of diluted by a bunch of BS. We talked about sort of how people were using stats today, given that a respected member of, I guess, Sixers Twitter had an interesting take about Ben Simmons yesterday. We discussed how people use stats. We sort of bridged to my part of the mediocrity bracket, which I guess for everyone's happiness coming closer to an end to. And we'll have actual content hopefully soon to discuss. But yeah, now just keep reading our work, everybody. Keep following Chris. Chris is just on another level right now. He's doing everything. Thiago is providing great new insights every day. I don't read many people's work because I don't think everybody's this is to say. I don't think everybody's as smart as I am, but I definitely read Thiago's work. So Thiago is very good. Yep. And keep following us on our journey.
Yeah, sure. So we're going to be talking NBA draft prospects, and leading off today is one of my favorite prospects in this draft. For me, Thiago, Austin, you guys know, for me, this was love at first sight, so it only makes sense to lead it off our War Room series with Mr. Kira Lewis, man. Kira Lewis was a 4-star recruit from Hazel Green, Alabama. He was fifth best point guard in the nation. He received offers from Auburn, Baylor, Connecticut. The biggest knock on this guy was his size. He only weighed in 160 pounds. But in August of 2018, he reclassified for the 2018 class and then signed with the Crimson Tide, following the footsteps of recent Alabama star Colin Sexton. And man, this is one of the youngest active players in all of D1 basketball, 17 years old, and just made an immediate impact his freshman year, man. 34 games, scored in double figures, 24 of 31 games, averaged 17 points per 40 minutes. The thing you got to know about Kira Lewis, man, he's got elite speed. And, during his sophomore season, man, he just tore it up, 18.5 points, 5.2 assists per game. He was named all SEC first team. Lewis scored the 5th most points in the SEC and had the 3rd most assists. He had 3 games of scoring 30 or more points and had 9 games of 3 or more three-pointers made. It's really crazy to think that Kira just turned 19 years old this month and is younger than most one-and-done prospects in this year's draft class. Next up, we're going to talk a little bit about Kira Lewis's strengths. Go ahead, Thiago.
Man, I'll tell you, you kind of touched on a little bit. Like, Kira is a fun guy to watch. Like, you just watch him against some of those SEC teams. Like, anytime there's a switch on him, guys just freeze. They're like, there's no way I can defend this guy. It's one step, and I'm gone. And I think Alabama did a really good job utilizing his strength. So they're not really fancy with their offense. They just kind of put the ball in his hands and said, man, like, create for us. And you touched on it, like, his speed in the half court is unbelievable. Unbelievable. He's able to get by guys, get to the rim pretty fast and pretty quickly. And also, I think one of the other things about him is that, his vision is not elite, I would say, but he's able to play off that drive pretty well. So if he runs out of ideas, he runs out of options, he can make that pass. He can find that extra guy and make sure that there's a better shot to be had there. So I think the complement between his speed, his ability to create off that drive is something that you rarely find in most of the point guard prospects that are out there, at least in today's in this year's draft. So for me, Kira Lewis, the dribble drive game and the ability to play off that dribble drive game is something that I think teams are going to value a lot in the upcoming draft that are coming up. So for sure, that is one of my main strengths.
How about you, Austin?
Yeah, I mean, I think in this draft, it's a very weird draft in that, like, the star power up top isn't, like, overwhelming.
Yeah.
But towards the tail end, like the last third of the first round, you're going to have a bunch of guys who are ready to go role players, multi-skilled, not just like one, not just like, shooting and then defense. Like, there are a bunch of guys who can dribble, shoot, chew gum at the same time, and defend. And I think it's just a very unique draft for that. And with that being said, I mean, I think one of the things you have to point to is, although he is sometimes turnover prone, Kira has an advanced handle for his class, and his dribble penetration is key in today's NBA, as we all know, whether it be full court or half court. The ability to collapse an interior defense and then, have the wherewithal to kick to the right guy. That's golden, and that's a weapon no matter who you are. So I think that his handle is tremendous, and his ability to just sort of pressure defenses and make them push back and defend the basket makes everything easier for his teammates.
Yeah. And just to kind of piggyback off on that before we touch on some of his weaknesses, he's a really good shooter, guys. Like, this is a guy that can pull up anywhere on the court, man. He thrives in the spot up opportunities. He shot 37 of 85 in those spot up opportunities. In 2 seasons with Alabama, he shot 36.2% from three in 304 attempts. So, man, this is a guy that, can put pressure on a defense, run in transition like De'Aaron Fox, and also space the court. So he's kind of this, like, versatile package. He can thrive with the ball in his hands. He can, shoot off screens without the ball in his hands. So he's a real, for a team that's looking for an offensive punch off the bench, I can't think of a better prospect in this class. Go ahead, Thiago.
And I just want to say, like, if you guys really want to understand Kira, just turn on to that it's Alabama-Georgia game, and Kyra's going off. It's like 30-some points. Alabama's going crazy, and Georgia's finally said, enough. I'm going to put Anthony Edwards on him to try to get him to stop him. And Anthony Edwards, for you guys who don't know, is a bona fide top 5 pick in the NBA draft. Might even be the number 1 pick in the draft. And I mean, 2 times, like, Anthony Edwards clearly respected the speed, took 2 steps back, and Kira just put it right in his face, 3-pointers, back-to-back, boom. Like, he's fearless, he's really talented, and you can definitely tell, like, when elite-level guys respect your speed, that's when you got something there. So You're spot on, Chris.
Awesome. And let's move on to weaknesses. And Austin, you touched on it a little bit, is the turnovers. But, like, a little preface about this one, like, this dude just turned 19. He had the 11th highest usage rate in the SEC with 24.3%. How do you fault a guy that is so young and had such a high usage percentage? I really don't. He had way too many turnovers. Austin, what's another weakness for Kira Lewis?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. I don't fault him for turnovers. It is something that if we're doing our due diligence on, we have to account for. Trae Young had too many turnovers. They were also doubling Trae Young because they knew he was the basically the biggest source of offensive threat on Oklahoma, and as a result, they doubled him and made him turn the ball over. It was an easy win. And the same thing, I think applies to Alabama in a lot of ways. And that's, you put him on a court with NBA players, you can't just double the ball out of his hand all the time. And so I don't hold too much weight in turnovers. I do know that there is the feeling that his defensive potential might be a little bit shaky. I tend to disagree with that. I kind of don't think there's such thing as a defensive potential. I know that sounds weird to say because we talk about potential all the time. But I mean, I think if you have the body, you have the length, and you have the athleticism to defend, your potential is impossible to quantify because defensive intensity and the will to be a good defender is something that's internal. Anybody can be a great defender. You have to have the drive and the desire to be a good defender and be consistently a stopper. And so I don't buy into defensive potential, but I can see why, at his size, 6'3", he will be a problem if, you don't know who he guards on a basketball court.
Yep.
The shooting guards now are like 6'5" to 6'7". Undersized shooting guards are going to be 6'3", 6'4", but most of the time you'll be faced up with a guy who's 6'5", and then in which case he might have a little bit of an issue in the early goings. He might get burned off the court in his first couple of seasons, but he adds on the weight, maybe grows a little bit more, adds some speed and agility, and suddenly he can stay in front of those bigger guards.
Any reaction to that, Thiago?
So I tend to agree with what Austin is saying. I'll just point out this, that I think he's at 165, if I'm not mistaken. And if you watch him, especially on the pick and roll, he just flat out dies on those screens. He provides very little resistance on any type of screen or any type of switch. So I think there's an opportunity for him to maybe add some weight. Now, is that going to impact his ability to create off the dribble and his speed? You have to be able to kind of balance that out and not go too far the other way. But if you watch him on defense, he provides very little resistance, either man-to-man or specifically in the pick and roll. And I think that he needs to be more cognizant of how to defend the pick and roll, and also perhaps add a couple more pounds here and there to make sure that he can take on the pounding of the NBA game. I think that's something that he's going to have to focus on moving forward. But overall, I tend to agree with what Austin is saying. I will point out one more thing. His shot is legit, but when he's facing lengthy, fast guys, it can be a problem. He's got a little bit of that low shot put release. And if you watch him against, I think it was Iowa State, and Tyrese Halliburton is another great NBA prospect, long, lengthy, quick. He made his life really hard. I mean, he took on the challenge, and he really made his life hard. You could tell Kyra had difficult times, trying to figure out where to take the shot from, where to go, and that kind of, you could see the impact there really play out. So I think those two things are kind of something he's going to have to focus on moving forward.
Yeah, I'm not comparing them as prospects, but I think this is one of those Lou Will type of prospects where you're hoping that his offensive output, outweighs his defensive deficiencies. Go ahead, Austin.
There's a lot of Lou Will in this draft, I think. Now, Saga makes a good point there, but wouldn't you also say that as the weight and the muscle mass goes up and increased NBA reps, the body adjusts to the speed of the game? I would also say that it's going to balance out to where his body will sort of elevate as well. And as a result, he'll be able to sort of, I guess, keep up with the NBA, weight class while also not losing other edges in his game.
Yeah, absolutely. Go ahead, Thiago.
I think it's a great point. And I think it's worth bringing that up. And I also think that he needs to be more aware of how to position his body, so he doesn't have to deal with so much pounding. So there are ways that you can go about defending the pick and roll. You have to actually run right into a screen and take that pounding and just kind of die. Anticipating the play and getting in front and behind guys can help. Again, that's going to come with coaching. And I think in the right environment, to Austin's points, it can mitigate some of that defensive deficiencies in a big way. So.
Yeah, I mean, I think weight is only a concern for me when it's a guy like Zion, who it's where you're like this guy needs to lose weight, because then it's a health concern. Then you don't know how the body adjusts or where his muscle mass sort of, where it's like, okay, this is actually an asset to have this much heavy. I think when you're underweight and you're bringing that up, it's a little easier to sort of adjust and make that fit better.
Awesome. All right, let's move on to our best fits for Mr. Kira Lewis. We're going to talk about who we think, which teams would be the most appropriate for Kira to ball out his rookie year. For me, when I think of Kira Lewis, I think of an explosive playmaker with elite speed, handle, and scoring ability. And I immediately go to the San Antonio Spurs guys. I think the Spurs here, they're looking to kind of, rebuild towards the future here. They have DeJounte Murray. They have Derek White. They have Lonnie Walker. All those guys are big-time young talent. But none of those guys are, go-to perimeter scorers. So I like Kira Lewis's fit with the Spurs. Plus, you have DeMar DeRozan kind of potentially on the out down in San Antonio. So the Spurs have the 11th and the 41st pick in this draft. So Kira Lewis could be readily available right there for the San Antonio Spurs. How about you, Thiago?
First of all, I think that Pop and Kyra together would be a great fit. I don't know about great. I think it would be fun to watch because Kyra can get a little bit crazy, and Pop is that kind of strict coach. I would think it would be great. For me, I tend to go more the route of like the Washington Wizards, and the reason why I say that is a couple things. First, the Wizards think they're picking 8th or 9th, and on top of that first tier draft. And Kyra may be a little bit too high in that range, but what they could do is perhaps trade back and get another first-round pick. They're in that rebuilding phase, and they don't really know what they have with John Wall moving forward. So it gives them a little bit of protection against what John Wall will be coming back from injury. But I think the main point here is that playing on a team that likes to run up and down the court, the Wizards are one of the top teams in pace, and they really just like to get up and down the court. So for me, just being in that environment, up and down, and just playing off Bradley Beal, the space that Bradley Beal gives that team, I think that could be a good matchup. And it gives them the option to compile more assets for the future as well. So for me, it's the Wizards.
What about you, Austin?
I think the Spurs are actually a pretty interesting fit because, well, I don't know like what Pop's future in San Antonio looks like. I don't know that when he's going to retire. But, I mean, I personally – I had Lonnie Walker very high on my board a couple of years ago. I sort of see there's like a Bradley Beal in there somewhere. And so I think a really interesting experiment for them would be maybe a 3-guard lineup with Brad Beal, or not Brad Beal, Lonnie Walker, DeJounte, and Kira Lewis. But for me, if we're all going to give different ones, I think the Milwaukee Bucks would be a really interesting fit for him.
Yeah.
You get off, that would give you the room to get off of Bledsoe's contract, and that way you can actually afford to re-sign Giannis, and maybe add some peripheral pieces as well. But Kira Lewis, good shooter, way better than Bledsoe, younger. The ceiling is higher there, and I think it allows you to sort of create it creates a path for you to explore financial flexibility going forward.
Yeah.
I fully that would be a nightmare in transition right there with Giannis and Kira. Oh my God! But obviously, no one picked the Philadelphia 76ers guys. When I think of Sixers, I think of they need playmaking. They need a guy. They need a ball handler. They need a guy that can create his own shot. They need a floor spacer. They need more small ball. They need to bring back the transition game to Philadelphia. And Kira Lewis is all those guys. Man,
They need fucking everything.
Well, I look at Kira Lewis and his ability to play off the ball, to get buckets. He could be that guy. I love the potential of him and Shake coming off the bench next season. Shake has that defensive versatility to play with Kira. I just love the fit. What about you, Thiago?
Listen, I would absolutely love the fit as well. I am pro Kyra 100%. I think you touched on it. He would light a fire on this team. I will say this. There's a little bit of Tony Roden in Kyra's game. And for a process Sixers team, yes. For a team that's on the verge or maybe making a move into the top echelon, that may drive some fans crazy. So I'm not 100% on the Kyra from a fit perspective, but I would definitely take him if he's there at 22.
Any last comments on Kyra, dude? Go ahead, Austin.
Yeah, I mean, just don't get another power forward. That's all. You don't need another power forward. We already have like 18 of those. Anybody who can add some like consistent depth and shooting off the bench and can maybe do more than like one single solitary thing, that would be nice. Another Shake Milton would be nice, but I also don't want to draft a guy whose ceiling is Shake Milton.
Yeah. All right. So make sure you follow Austin on Twitter at KrellTPL. Check out the Feed to Embiid on Twitter at the Feed to Embiid. And check out my man Thiago on Twitter at TScabia. Be on the lookout for all of our War Room player profile scouting reports on the NBA draft. For Austin, for Thiago, for myself, thanks for watching, guys. Stay awesome.
Sixers win it! Wow! Oh, man. Embiid just posterized Russell Westbrook.
You love the Philadelphia Eagles? Let me get a hell yeah!